Look who's here.
Good evening. Hey, Robert.
Nice shirt.
Oh, you look great.
Thanks.
Every time I see you on the Saturday, I think I should be wearing a tie.
And yet you never do.
I hate ties.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a symbolic public self-strangulation.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
In order to show a certain atonement for the level of status one has achieved in society.
Oh, my God.
I don't like them much either. Good to see you. Where have you been?
I was amongst... Actually, I had... I was in Vienna. I conducted my former orchestra, where I was music director before coming to Oregon.
Oh, fun.
And then I was in Madrid, working a week with the orchestra, where I am going to be music
Wow,
director.
interesting time for you. The past and the present and the future all at
Yeah.
Wow.
Everywhere I leave this horrible mark that I leave.
Scorched earth policy in your wake. Yeah, sure, I believe that. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
But I heard, the great news is I heard it has been raining for 37 days straight. So I thought, great.
We're 4 inches over normal rain. No wonder it seems so oppressive lately. It has been.
Yeah.
But that makes everything nice and lush and green and, keeps the air clean.
Yeah, when the sun comes out and finally the flowers...
Hey, look, man, the sun is always shining.
Yeah, somewhere else.
Yeah, we just can't see it. It's always up there.
Okay.
Yeah, let's keep that in mind when it really gets you down. It really is there. Let me ask you something about Vienna. Yeah. Since you know Vienna ever so well. I've been to Vienna a couple of times, and it reminded me a little bit of New York City in that...
This better be good.
In that nobody smiles much. It's like the Viennese think they're too cool to smile.
Vienna is such an interesting city, and only Viennese can say that. Viennese are have a reputation for being incredibly friendly, and it's absolutely not true. In that they might have something to do with New York. I think that Viennese sometimes can be friendly, but essentially they are rude. And the thing with the smiling is Viennese in particular have this, it's in their genes that they have to complain.
Oh, so I would fit in there better than I thought. Okay.
Exactly. You should move there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a fun idea.
Yeah.
What do they complain about?
Oh, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, right.
There is always something. Trust me.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah. The glass is half empty in Vienna. But it really is a beautiful place and an incredible center for music. Music, you're bringing us an unusual, I don't know if it's an unusual piece, an unusual opportunity tonight to hear a work by William Walton that I've never come across in the concert hall before. It was written for the Cleveland Orchestra to celebrate, their 40th anniversary or something.
Yes.
So it's a very festive piece. I really like Walton's music, so thank you for bringing us this partita.
Well, this piece is, it's so simple to talk about this piece. Actually, in Walton's own words. Walton was a composer who really disliked being asked, what does your music mean? Or what's the secret behind? Meaning digging for intellectual hints to understand his music better. He didn't like that, but here and there he had to reveal something. So in this case, this is written for the Cleveland Orchestra under the direction of the great Hungarian conductor George Zell, who to this day is responsible for the greatness of this orchestra, regardless that he left the job 30 years ago. I mean, he's dead. Zell himself asked Walton, can you please tell us something that we can write in the program book? And Walton said, well, actually, it's very simple. There is absolutely nothing to be said about this piece. Zippo.
See you later. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, in this, what he meant, okay, he said a second sentence maybe, which was, it's completely self-explanatory. The music is there to be enjoyed, and I wrote it having the great musicians of the Cleveland Orchestra in mind, and I hope they enjoyed playing. End of story. That was what he said, and in essence, what I can tell you about this music is, it's exactly what Walton said. There is, let's not dig for deeper meaning or in what situation in life William Walton was at the time. It's completely beyond the point. It's music that he wrote. The one thing that can be said very clearly about this piece is this is a tour de force for an orchestra. We will, for example, when we come back from Carnegie Hall, the last concert of this season is a concert to celebrate the Oregon Symphony, and we will feature several soloists from our own orchestra. And that in the second half of the program, at that time, in May 22nd, around that time, we will play Concerto for Orchestra, which is a show, somehow a showpiece for orchestra. But the Concerto for Orchestra by Bela Bartok is nothing like the piece you're going to hear, because the Concerto by Bartok has a lot of extremely meaningful undertones, and of course it's way larger in scope, and the ideas are more complex, and there is a lot of stuff. And in this piece that you're going to hear, the stuff is kind of limited by choice. He wanted to write a piece that showcases an orchestra. He wrote a fast movement, a slow movement, and a fast movement. And what you will notice is it's funny, it's intelligent music, it's highly energetic. Oh boy. And I also can tell you it is incredibly difficult. I mean, he knew he was writing for the Cleveland Orchestra, so he didn't make it very easy. This is what it is. It is really tricky, and it showcases what an orchestra, modern orchestra, actually can do. It's very colorful, and somehow you can think, if you are if you're very, very familiar with Walton's music, that he is kind of sarcastically quoting himself, meaning taking things from his more earnest music and putting it into a very different context in this one. But what's the point? As Walton said, there is no point, just listen, enjoy, and I think that's exactly what you can do. As I said, fast, slow, fast. You can also translate as loud, soft, loud, because that's it too. And in the what is one thing that comes to mind is, after this huge explosion of stuff in the first movement, the second movement is so wonderfully gracious, elegant, lush English in a way. English with a little French spice. Impressionistic. That's what I found there. And it gives some woodwinds, and particularly our wonderful principal viola, Joël Belgique, ample opportunity to shine.
I really like that second movement. It's beautiful. William Walton, English composer, though he lived much of his life at Ischia, an island off the coast of Naples, where he and his wife cultivated, I've read about but not seen, a spectacular, beautiful garden, which she maintained after his death. I don't know who owns that property now. I hope somebody's taking care of that garden. Have you ever been there?
Unfortunately,
Wouldn't it be fun to go to William Walton's house in Ischia?
It would be fun to go to Ischia. Has quite a reputation for being one of those spots where you want to spend your time.
Well, he certainly wanted to. You know, most English composers don't move to small Italian islands, so it's
maybe he was sick of the weather.
Well, okay. I can't imagine how that could possibly be true. So James Ennis, is finally making his Portland debut tonight with the Oregon Symphony, a Canadian violinist in his mid-30s whose work I've adored on recordings for a number of years, and so I'm really happy that you got him here to play this beautiful Bruch concerto tonight. You've seen pictures of James Ennis. He has this kind of boyish face, and he's often smiling in the pictures. So he just looks like he would be a really nice guy, and I had the pleasure of interviewing him for Northwest Previews, and lo and behold, he was a really nice guy. And he mentioned that he's worked with you before. Right?
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I mean, we did work on several occasions, and I tell you this about James. There are on our days, and we talked about that when we were in the dressing room, just discussing the concert. We talked about something else, as always. And it was about having a career as a young person. And there is on our days right now such an overflow of young violinists. 95% of them female. So what you can have, and several of them have been on this stage, they are female, young, very pretty. You like that, right?
That's why Carlos gave up the violin.
Yeah, and they can really play very well. So I told James, whom I greatly admire, there is only one thing that's negative about you, which is you're not female. Because it's incredible. Everywhere you find them. And I think that, at least to my taste, amongst the younger crowd of violinists, amongst the top 3, there is James Ennis. He is that good. I have been working a long time to get him here. And I must also say, just kind of as a little side note, that we at the Oregon Symphony are not only very grateful to James that he comes here to play with us, but we are also very, very happy that he comes and changed the program, because we had another concert planned for this occasion. And as it is in modern music, sometimes it happens that one of the very big names tells you, yeah, he wants to come, but this is the piece he wants to play, and he has no other piece available. And that's what happened. There was Shostakovich in this concert, and we very much looked forward. And then we had one of these wonderful violinists, Joshua, who is coming next season, and he said, I can come, and I would love to come to Oregon Symphony because I like the city, I like the orchestra, but it has to be Shostakovich. So we went to James and said, James, please. And James said, okay, just to help Joshua's career, I will do it.
Oh, that's excellent. I love it. Has James had good things to say about our merry band?
You interviewed him.
That was before he had been here to play with him, though.
Now he has a sour face, trust me.
Oh, he's disappointed.
I mean, I don't. Yeah,
I'll find out later.
I think he.
I would think so.
I think he likes it. Yes. And just to get to the concert that you're going to hear now, the Bruch Violin Concerto. Even to say, what are you playing? I'm playing the Bruch Violin Concerto. Everybody knows what that piece is, correct? Well, yeah, true. But Bruch wrote 4 concertos. Which one is? If we say he's playing the Bruch Violin Concerto, okay, number 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the fact of the matter and the sad story behind this is that Bruch wrote 4 violin concertos, and only one is incredibly well known, the first. And it goes beyond, because Bruch is regarded nowadays as one of those one-hit composers, which is very sad, because this is a composer who, during his lifetime, was incredibly well regarded and wrote a gazillion of works, several symphonies, 4 violin concertos, 3 operas, oratorios, chamber music. Everything is there. and then all we know is his Violin Concerto number 1.
Is that true in Germany as well?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. I once pride myself, when I was really young, I got invited by the Orchestra of Mannheim, and in the program was the concerto for 2 pianos and orchestra by Max Bruch. I am sure that that piece had not been played in Germany 50 years before I was there and will not be played 50 years after. Okay. It's incredible. So it happened like it happens probably with every composer, that Bruch, when he got to enjoy fame and got to be older, he really disliked, well, he liked the concert. It's a good piece. But he disliked that everybody, hey, maestro, can I please play your first violin concerto? And he always said, can you please play another one? I wrote 4. And here in Oregon, we are very, very happy that actually, to all of you who are going to, of course, or already did, renew your subscription next year, there is a wonderful violinist who will be sitting right here tonight who plays Bruch Violin Concerto number 2. So to know a little bit more about Mr. Bruch, you have to come to Portland, Oregon.
How about that?
Yeah. Now, the concert itself, if I just may touch on this, is the work of, it's probably started as the work of a teenager. He was that young, and he completed it when I think he was around 26 years old. It's a kind of youthful concerto. And there is one thing that is a little, not to use the word odd, but unusual, which is the first movement is titled Vorspiel, which means prelude. And it's really a prelude. It's not like when we go to concerts, it's always that the first movement of a concerto in the traditional way is a very substantial piece of music with several themes, etc., etc. And in this case, it works a little bit like the violinist is thinking about what he will play, and he does a little fiddling around on his instrument, very virtuosic, and then we get to a melody and we dismiss the melody and we come back, and then the entire thing ends, and then we get to the real thing, which is the second movement, which is probably where Max Bruch, the composer, displays what he did best, which is lyrical slow movement. At the end of the day, we have to admit that this Bruch Violin Concerto that everybody knows so well is amongst those 70 pieces that are in music that we as performers have been doing our entire life, and that whenever somebody says, can you please play Bruch Violin Concerto, we say, like, not again. And yet, when it comes to that, it's a great piece of music. It's that simple. It's a great piece of music. And there is, just to quote a colleague, long deceased colleague of James Ennis, the great violinist, German violinist Joseph Joachim, who essentially advised Brahms when Brahms wrote his violin concerto, also advised Bruch when Bruch wrote his concerto. And as interesting as this may be, when asked what he thinks about German violin concertos in the Romantic era, in the 19th century, Joachim said there are 4 great violin concertos. Beethoven, Brahms, Mendelssohn, and this one. I think it's a very smart way to describe it. And he said, I quote, Bruch is the most seductive.
Nice. And James Ennis will be signing CDs during intermission. The Classical Millennium table in the lobby is covered with CDs. a lot of different recordings by James Ennis and some other things too.
There is one for which he won the Grammy, didn't he?
That's true. He
or
won an
Emmy or the Grammy
Award for Barber, Corn Gold,
and something else.
And something else.
Can't
remember.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm such a bad customer for recording companies.
You're a little busy with...
No, but I prefer to go to concerts.
You have scores to learn and things like that?
Yeah.
Scores to settle. Something interesting about this concert is that the whole concert is, in a way, a kind of concerto for orchestra in that the pieces are so different. The Bruch is very lush and romantic and heartfelt, and the Walton is very flashy and noisy and modern and high-spirited and spunky. And then the Beethoven, you just trim everything away except just meat and tendons and gristle and bone and strength. So, 3 different eras, 3 different sounds. You're giving us a lot of variety tonight.
Well, as you know, you know what I like to program, so I always like to do that. And the interesting thing is that when an orchestra and, of course, the music director as well really care about little things like style, then this concert it's important. It just showcases what an orchestra can do. Because let's just stay in Germany with Bruch and Beethoven. It showcases that the approach to sound as such between the Bruch and the Beethoven is very different. How the orchestra conceptualizes the sound. And I think that showcases that an orchestra is really good, like this one. Just as a side anecdote, I always was fascinated, I'm always fascinated with interpretation of music. What can an interpreter see when he looks at the score? And of course, being a conductor myself, I look at all my colleagues and I find things that I didn't see, and for me it's fascinating. So, for example, the Walton Partita, and I'm sure that our friends at Classical Millennium might have this highly virtuosic piece. If you compare the original recording that they might have as a CD, which is the Cleveland Orchestra and George Szell, probably recorded in the either very late 50s or in the beginning 60s. I don't know exactly when. Doesn't matter. You compare that to other interpretations, it's different just because of one little fact that is there in the Szell that is not there in the others, which is the Szell one is driven, really forward. He's just faster than everybody else, and therefore this constant motion, the virtuosity of that orchestra is astounding. But I'm not telling you that because of the Walton. I'm telling you that because of the concept of sound in Beethoven. Fairly, I would say something like probably a year ago or so, I was in Madrid, and I got the opportunity to go to a concert. And it was London Symphony Orchestra, which is undoubtedly one of the great orchestras of our world. And they played the symphony that you're hearing tonight. And I was there, and I was incredibly pleased with the performance. It was a great performance. But stylistically speaking, it just was very different from what you can conceptualize in terms of just sound. Because the conductor, great conductor, Riccardo Muti, romantic approach to Beethoven, slow, lush, rich, sometimes even creamy. And then you have other artists who do the same piece, and they don't have this idea at all. They come from a very different mindset, and it's very likely that the interpretation by them will be 4 to 5 minutes shorter than what Muti does, because they do it at a certain speed, Everything is more slender, and the attacks are more in the face of the audience. And I'm not saying all of this to you because I'm giving a hint of what is coming. That's actually, for me, it's not even important that it was never, regardless of Mr. Beethoven or Mr. Mozart or Mr. Walton. I don't like it when you try to put an interpreter in a corner. We just do what we think is best. For me, the only thing I can, and I don't want now that I gave you the hint, more romantic or more in the other, you are like, oh, let's see where Carlos is. All I can tell you is, to my own amazement, I was not really surprised, but it's still fun to do that. I have conducted this piece many, many times and over, I can now say, decades. And still you look at it and you discover things that you've never seen before. And you think, either why did I miss that, or why didn't I think about that? And it shows that, at least to me, that it's good that you change over the years and you look at the world in a different way, and in this case the world is Beethoven's world.
I couldn't agree more. If you have the same frame of mind and the same thoughts all the time and the same point of view, how boring would that be? One of my favorite John Cage quotes, and there are a lot of them, is, "I don't know why people are afraid of new ideas. I'm afraid of the old ones." You're going to love this concert.
Or now I have to translate, and it will not come out very well. It's not even a short story, I don't know, it's literature, German literature.
Uh-oh.
Franz Kafka.
Oh.
Mr. K. His little things about Mr. K. And that a friend sees Mr. K after not having seen him probably a very long time. And he says, oh. And he says, he compliments Mr. K, you look exactly as you looked, God knows when ago. And all Mr. K does is he says, oh, and goes very pale. That's it.
You have a half an hour to mull that over before the concert starts tonight. For those of you just arriving late tonight, our good man Bill has been videotaping this, and you can check that out at allclassical.org if you want to watch all of our conversation and see how well this color translates on video. I love that shirt. And Joe's been taking some still shots, and I bet those are going to make their way to our Facebook page at allclassical.org. Nice to see you again, Maestro. Have a good concert.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome back.